Welcome to Discover Fort Monroe. With me is the man, the myth, the legend, the one everyone's been dying to meet. Fort Monroe Authority's new CEO, Scott Martin. Scott started in early January, and I've had the pleasure of working with him since. And I'm not just saying that because he's right there. This week, let's get to know Scott Martin. As we get to discover more about you, I want you to discover some of the incredible landscapes here at Fort Monroe, starting with our first stop here at Cannon Park, which is often overlooked, but there is a monument dedicated to the brave men and women who fought in the Battle of the Bulge. The other wonderful thing about Cannon Park is that it's centrally located between St. Mary's Church, the main gate, the YMCA, and Firehouse Coffee. So my first question for you is, what inspired you to apply for the CEO position at Fort Monroe?
Well, I mean, it's kind of funny. You didn't know this about me before you picked the spot. My first job in terms of parks and public landscapes and historical sites was as a member of a cannon crew at Petersburg National Battlefield. So well done. Kudos to you. Yeah, opportunities here like Fort Monroe are significant, not only nationally, but globally. There's not a lot of these sites that carry the story, carry the ecology, carry the history, and then have the capacity to profoundly shape the entire trajectory of a region. So when an opportunity comes like this, you have to take a hard look at it. Number two is, this is for me very personal, in ways I didn't quite expect. There are days where I feel like I must have to sweep away the ghosts, because my family's history is literally visible from this one spot. Half my family grew up in Suffolk, the other half's from Ocean View and Willoughby Spit area. And there are photos of me as a 4-year-old up on Pet Cemetery. And the opportunity, or the weird way the universe aligns, to almost come back home was something that I didn't have planned, but it made sense on so many levels. And the opportunity to be a companion to the folks that have shaped the story and are shaping it, and to come on board and help steward it, is just one of those opportunities in life that you're not nudged into, but you're kind of kicked into.
I love it.
I feel incredibly fortunate to have the opportunity to be a part of this team and enjoying this story.
I love it. That was a similar thing for me, getting to work somewhere that meant so much to me growing up. Our next stop is here at the old hospital, a recognizable landmark with an important history. It was constructed in 1898 and remained a hospital until 1974, when it was reorganized into a clinic. We still hear from people that were born here or treated here, and we'll get into some more of that history in a future video. But for you, my next question is, what previous experience has prepared you for this role?
Well, that's a good question, because I don't know if anything prepares you for the enormous responsibility that comes with stewarding the site. But I can tell you, over the course of years and working across a few landscapes, I've come to appreciate the sensitivity and thoughtfulness that you need to bring to this space, because of the connection people have with these locations, particularly here, because of the amount of sacrifice that we're looking at. We're looking at 12,000 years of human settlement on top of it. So what you're trying to bring to a landscape like this is probably some intentional naivety and some humbleness of listening to the folk stories who are attached to it, stewarding those, shepherding those, caring for those. You care for these landscapes, you don't maintain them. The second thing is really a keen attention to how much these places aren't fixed spots in history. They are part of an evolving story about what it means to live in the Hampton Roads. What does it mean? I would go so far as to say, what does it mean to be an American? And these landscapes are not done teaching us and providing us with the resources to ground ourselves. Our job as the authority, while it's going to touch all the financial stuff and the fixing things and the programming things, I actually think it's a part of a broader narrative about what it still means to be an American and what these landscapes mean as an American when we look at them for reservoirs of strength, of story, of hope, to carry us forward.
We come to our next spot, surrounded by its Fort Monroe classic views, with the exception of the construction, which will be a very important African landing memorial. But the Fort Monroe classic views include the Chamberlain behind us. We have the bandstand, the oldest standing structure here at Fort Monroe, the lighthouse built in 1802, and of course, the ever-defining Chesapeake Bay. And on the subject of defining, my next question for you is, how can a place like Fort Monroe shape the trajectory of an entire region?
I can't believe you left off the other historic structure behind us. There is a traffic jam on the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel that I believe circa 1989 is
right.
when that
never moved
that
since.
particular jam
right.
started. Look, hey, look, you just defined it. Look around us. You know, not only are we shepherding and caring for, as we've talked about, this incredible resource, but look how it presupposes and really assumes its position here on the edge of the Chesapeake Bay, the Gibraltar of the Chesapeake. So when we look around at what we do here, it stretches far beyond our boundaries. And it is one of those rare things in Hampton Roads. You know, love or hate it, the Hampton Roads region is really automobile centric. This is one of those rare locations that's actually human centric. The space was built for walking. It was built for what we're doing right now. And that means it has a dramatic power in terms of how people will experience it going forward. Whether they come here to propose to their significant other and hit the knee, which I'm sure we'll see sooner than later, or whether they have a business prospect or a tourist in town and they want to be like, hey, you're in town, you have got to go see Fort Monroe. This is part of the narrative of the experience. This is one of those, you know, bucket list, you got to go see it when we have people. So we carry an outside responsibility to serve that and to serve the broader region in that respect. And I take a lot of hope. And I think everyone should take a lot of confidence in we are not alone in this charge. There are groups all over the globe that are working on similar landscapes, both shepherding and stewarding the history, the stories, the culture, and the traditions, and also serving the future. I think of us, and I put us in the same neighborhood as Circular K in Sydney, which folks know as the Sydney Opera House. Similar sort of organization as the Fort Monroe Authority, if you can believe that. The Presidio is brought up a lot as a similar project, Stanley Park in Vancouver, Governor's Island in New York. So there are a lot of these locations, and when they're done right, they become monuments of themselves, but they really become the namesake, or when you think about a region, you think about its identity. And not to speak ill of the Hampton Roads region again, but we are one of those rare elements and landscapes in this region that does stand out, that stands the test of time, that has a special story to tell. The next opportunity for us is how do we let more people be a part of that story? How do we welcome everyone in to share not only in telling that story, but stewarding it, caring for it, and passing it forward?
Our second to last spot is right here on top of Battery Irwin. Battery Irwin still has its 2 saluting guns and is next door to Battery Parrott, which at one point would have had 12-inch disappearing guns. Both of these batteries are great landmarks and examples of Fort Monroe's coastal defense for visitors to see. What landmarks do you draw inspiration from?
Oh my gosh, that's you ask good questions. It was really cool. I'll go here first because it was really neat. My first couple weeks here, obviously, the snowfall we had last week,
right?
And to see the snow on these live oaks and on the forts and on the structures, that was a really cool moment. And that's a unique kind of deal to Virginia. I think sometimes, you know, we're kind of a nuanced landscape. We're not the Grand Canyon. We don't pow wow you. We're a nuanced deal. But to see that story relayed here, and the juxtaposition, because it's all about juxtapositions of beauty and nature and preparation for war and peace. These kind of interplay with each other on this landmark, and it becomes something really special. And what I love about it already, and we all know it, is every season it's something different. You know, it's going to give you a different voice. It's going to give you a different experience for what you come for. Our job as the authority is to make sure our guests are delivered with that experience, regardless of what they come for, but make sure we deliver it in a safe, clean, fun way. And that's kind of the magic. I hear right now chirping over us, you know, a yellow-rumped warbler. There may be bird watchers that come. We're standing obviously on a battlement. When the history fans come, when folks who study these forts and the constructions, when the soldiers and the Army that still use this fort as a teaching location come, making sure we can deliver that history that's honest to the site itself. And then when we think about the 12,000 years of human settlement here and the stories from the African landing to John Smith to the Native Americans, all the way through, each one of those landmark experiences can be delivered here. And I find that really unique and challenging at the same time.
Before we wrap up, I want to point out that Scott Martin here stood out amongst 250 qualified applicants nationwide. And we end our tour right here, just on the edge of Dog Beach. Why is that, Scott?
Well, I think it's important to mention that this project is a partnership. We're standing on National Park Service land right now, and our success, our failure, all the aspirations are really reliant on strong partnerships with both the Commonwealth of Virginia, the City of Hampton, the National Park Service, the guests, the volunteers, the businesses, the residents, the partnerships. All of this is about a group coming together, and there's never been a more exciting time in American park and public landscape history than now to do this, because we have more creative ways to partner and work together than we've ever had before. By the same token, we're also at a pretty big inflection point. People have never been so disconnected from lands. Folks, if they're watching this video and have hung in here this long, they're watching it on their phone. They're watching it on a computer. The real disconnect, and the thing we all want to attack together, is to get people back connected to these landscapes. Get back to experiencing a wow, I had no idea. Getting back to that wonder. And I don't think there's a better place to do this in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and certainly on the East Coast, than Fort Monroe at this very moment.
And our last question, the hardest one out of all of them. What is something that might surprise people about you?
Well, that's a good one. How boring I am. I am the luckiest person in the world, because I have known since age 17 that public lands and this sort of landscape work is where I wanted to be. The other thing I'm very lucky is at middle age to still feel a sense of wonder, a sense of hope and optimism we can get this right. And I wake up every day just amazed more and more by everything that surrounds us here and every bit of opportunity we have.
I love it. Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining us on this tour of Fort Monroe, while we got a tour of Scott with Scott.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.